6:54, 71 degrees. It's time for my final thought. Now, on Tuesday, the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, announced it'd be moving $271 million in funds to prop up President Trump's border security efforts. This includes $155 million from FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund. In a statement to Congress, DHS said that, quote, absent significant new catastrophic events, the department believes the fund will still have enough money to operate. Now, let's hope this belief is solid, because right now Puerto Rico is under a possible hurricane watch threatened by Tropical Storm Dorian, which is expected to hit the island later today, coming almost exactly 2 years after Hurricanes Irma and Maria slammed into her, causing untold amounts of damages and losses from which the people there still have not fully recovered. This caught the attention of our president, who took time out of his day to tweet, "Wow, yet another big storm headed to Puerto Rico. Will it ever end?" Congress approved $92 billion for Puerto Rico last year, an all-time record of its kind for anywhere. Now, two things about this tweet. First of all, no, seasons don't end. Second, Puerto Rico didn't get $92 billion. They were allocated $42 billion, of which only about 12 has actually been spent. Paper towels do cost, don't they? That fund is there for a reason, to provide relief for disasters, not to be raided like your kid's piggy bank when you're looking for tip money for the pizza guy. Shouldn't we be using all available resources to help shore up and protect our Puerto Rican citizens in their homes, not to mention the mainland, which also gets hit every season? Considering the animus that still exists after how Hurricane Maria was handled, this would be an excellent time to provide the people of Puerto Rico assurance they'll be taken care of, instead of making them feel guilty for being in the way of a storm. When the time comes, that money, all of it, needs to be there. You guys have a beautiful Wednesday. Get up, DC.